Josh Baer, entrepreneur, serial entrepreneur, investor and founder of Capital Factory, Austin's largest co-working space. Welcome to Irish Startup TV.
Thank you, I'm excited to be here.
More importantly, welcome to Ireland.
Yeah.
So tell us, what brought you to Ireland?
Well, actually, I came here as part of an Eisenhower Fellowship I was really honored to receive. These fellowships take business leaders from the US and they send them all over the world to different countries to help have them learn about other cultures and establish personal relationships. And they also take people from around the world and bring them to the US each year. And so under this fellowship, I'm going and I'm meeting with entrepreneurs, innovators, co-working spaces all over Ireland, really to get a feel for the Irish startup scene, what's making it tick, and really to look for connections for how can Austin help Ireland and how can Ireland help Austin.
Fantastic, and there's been a great Irish connection with Austin already. To what extent have you leveraged that coming here?
Well, yeah, it's really pretty amazing. Of all the cities where Ireland could have a presence, there's a consulate in Austin. IDA and Enterprise Island both have people on the ground in Austin and a presence there. And we're seeing many Austin startups and growth companies establishing a presence here in Dublin, like Indeed, SolarWinds, Dell, and other companies like that. And so there's already a pretty good connection there. And every year at South by Southwest, we have a big contingent of Irish entrepreneurs and other interesting leaders coming down. So it was a pretty obvious place to connect with for me.
From your experience of coming to Ireland, are there any ways you think that we could further build on the already massive relationship that's there?
In particular, one of the things I'm getting the word out about while I'm here is our Touchdown Austin program. You can find that out at touchdownaustin.com. And basically what we've done is we put together a package to help Irish startups that are ready to expand into the US market. We're not trying to move their headquarters there. We're really looking to help them sell into the US. So typically we give them an office for 6 months and they send over 1 or 2 people. We help them maybe recruit 1 or 2 more, help with visa and immigration issues, but more importantly, put them in a community, surround them with the rest of the entrepreneurial community and help them meet customers, investors, and other people that can help them grow in the US.
I know I had the experience myself working with a startup where I was invited over to Phoenix, Arizona, and I thought to myself, what am I going to do there? But if I had a do-over, I could come and I could ring you up and I could say, hey Josh, Capital Factory, you give me a bit of space and you support me to basically just meet who I need to meet. That sounds fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, look, you could go anywhere, and there's lots of great places to go. It's hard to argue with going to Silicon Valley or going to New York City, but there are some trade-offs. Like, those places are really expensive, and Austin has a much lower cost of living. It's lower cost of recruiting talent, and easier to retain that talent when you're there.
Is there anything you'd like to call out that we're doing really, really well here at the moment?
Well, in particular, I think you've created an amazing foundation, and I think that puts you just right on the cusp of more explosive growth. With the work that the IDA has done to bring in so many multinationals here, like Google and Facebook and many others, I think you may not see the impact of that yet on the startup scene, but what that's done is create an incredible talent base and it create a pipeline of support for the startup community. And there's Irish people who are going through those companies that are getting these great experiences. They're learning how to build and scale some of the biggest companies in the world, and they're forming teams, they're getting experience, they're meeting customers, and out of that I think what you'll see is more and more startups spinning out of those companies with the talents and the skills that they've developed there. And so I'm really impressed by that, and I think it puts you just on the cusp of a lot more great things to come. The next thing I think you really need is that breakout company, right? You need that one company that's the example for everybody that becomes worth hundreds of millions or $1 billion, and then really starts that virtuous cycle where from that, those people start more companies, investors get comfortable thinking like, wow, you really can build a big company in Ireland, or wow, those people came from Ireland? And that causes more of that to happen.
Talk to us about Stripe. So Stripe, I guess, on a level, is that company? What do you think?
Yeah, well look, I think the place where it starts, the first thing you need to do is export talent. And I think that's kind of what Stripe was. I don't know that everybody in the US thinks of Stripe as an Irish company, but when you look into it, you realize it was started by Irish founders, and that hey, wow, that really did come out of Ireland. I think the next one might be something like Intercom, right? And Intercom also obviously has a big presence in the US, but what's key about it is that they have their development team here in Ireland. And I think that as they become a big success story, that's going to be an even stronger tie back, saying no, they didn't just move to the U.S. They're actually really have a big presence here in Ireland, and they're still an Irish company. And I think that'll feed back into the ecosystem, and then hopefully there'll be more that come out of that. One of the hard things about that cycle that I'm talking about is it takes about 10 years to make it one loop around the cycle, right? For a company to really grow and have a big exit and become a big success, it really takes a minimum of about 10 years. And so, we're impatient. We want it to happen faster. But I think Ireland's very much kind of starting that wheel going, and you're going to see more and more of those successes coming.
Are there any challenges that maybe you guys have faced or that you would see in other areas that we need to look out for?
There's...
Or anything specific perhaps that you've noticed and you'd say you guys really need to improve on this?
Overall, I'm really impressed, and I think things are headed in the right direction. You've got a lot of great people with the right intentions doing a lot of the right things. I think an interesting challenge you're going to face is right now you've been so fortunate to have the IDA and Enterprise Ireland promoting entrepreneurship and tech and business here in Ireland, and they play a really key role. And I think there's no chance you'd be where you are today without that. The challenge will be transitioning over time, maybe over the next 10 years, from having that all be government supported and sponsored to more private development, more of it happening in the private markets. And long term, that's better for the markets. That's really what makes them sustainable and makes them live on their own. They never could have gotten here without what we have. And so, I think they're doing a fantastic job. But that transition is going to be really key and need to be handled properly.
So you think the community at some point has to take over and say, right, we've got this now, thanks a million, guys?
Yeah, well, one example that I found just from talking to some other people in this, here in the community, is that, say you wanted to start your own co-working space. Well, one of the challenges you'd have today is that there are so many government-sponsored organizations providing free or highly subsidized space to startups that it's hard to make a business around it. It's hard to, because you have to compete against people offering it for free. And it's great that they're offering it for free, right? Like, you might not have been able to get here without that, but there has to be a transition at some point where you actually want private organizations supporting and growing this and doing this on their own. And so that'll be, like I said, an interesting thing to balance and to manage the transition for.
Final question, any standout startups we should be keeping an eye on?
I've met a lot of great startups while I've been here. I'm an email guy, and so one that I really like that I met over at Dogpatch is called Hiri.
Yes.
And they're creating a really interesting, different way of dealing with your email for business users. And it's a pretty interesting approach. I've seen a lot of email startups, and I think that they're onto something. They've got something.
Josh, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thanks so much for speaking to us today.